chatting about explaining the leaderboard to Brian
I'm technically
and how you
not smart.
find each other on the leaderboard. So, good morning, everybody. Coach Lorri here with Coach Brian, which is a great treat. We haven't sat down. You and I haven't sat down in a few weeks and chatted, which
It's
seems
been the
strange because
holidays, you know? The
you know,
holidays are crazy. I feel like 2 weeks ago was like 2 months ago.
isn't it weird?
It's
I know
crazy. It
it's
really is crazy, like, how, it's like a time vacuum.
yeah,
Between Christmas and New Year's is like a time vacuum. It, like, doesn't
and
exist.
too, I think. And what's interesting is there I'm picking up somebody's audio.
Uh-oh.
I haven't
Alright,
had
we're
this
back.
mistake in a while.
It's me.
Is it
Must be
you?
me.
Is it
I
picking up your audio? I always try to blame you, but now I'm backwards. That's funny. I'm mirrored. I was mirrored last week with John. It was driving me nuts. But
it's only hard when you start to use your hands for stuff and you figure your
yeah,
hands are going the wrong direction. That's really drives me
I'm
nuts.
turning off the audio on everything. Anyways, Happy New Year, everybody. There's Loud Vale. I answered your question this morning on the group Loud Vale, but I think you want dates on the printout, and that might be a little too much content on there. So I'll ask the guys. But anyways, here we are, week 2 coming up of our New Year challenge. And Brian and I were just kind of getting caught up on life stuff. So what's going on, Brian? Well, besides your email issue,
Yeah,
we're
well, it
talking
all
about
started because
technology issues.
I was emailing or messaging, trying to email Lori last night at like midnight when I should be 2 hours asleep already,
I know.
realizing that every email I've sent in the last 2 weeks has basically gone to everybody's junk box. So now I'm just trying to figure that out, which is great because I'm not an IT person. And, they're looking at SMPT and the DKNIE, and I'm
And
like,
IMAP. And yeah,
I have no idea what this is, and try it on your domain. And I'm like, it must feel like somebody who's never been in cycling at all showing up at a
right.
bike shop, right? Like in Liz, and they're talking about all these different things, and you're just like,
Yeah,
I just need a bicycle.
right.
Like, I just need one that works. Like, point me in the right direction.
It's one of
So,
the biggest mistakes I think bike shop staff makes is, especially with women. Men are more about the technical. They'll do all this research and they'll know what every bolt weighs and the advantage of force versus red and that kind of thing. And see, I'm throwing out terms that
mhm.
these people have no idea what they are. They're different price points of group sets. Anyways, women just want to know, what's it going to do for me? How's it going to change my life riding this bike? So yes, what's a derailleur? It's
Yeah.
French and it means to change tracks, right? Like a train. And that's what we do with our bikes, unless you're smart like me and run one bike. But yeah, tech
I
is
know it's French
interesting.
because it's really hard to spell. That's how
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
like,
U in there and a couple
there's just like a
L's.
ton of
And
L's and a U,
yeah,
and I'm always like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard when you're an independent business owner and you are your IT person as well as everything else. You're like trying to chase it all down. So I know. And I was like, Brian, why are you still awake? As he's texting me, and it's pretty late for me. So,
yeah,
but hopefully you get it sorted out. It's the
I'll get it
quietest
sorted.
I've ever heard Brian. I was like,
I
wow, he hasn't said anything.
The
We've
the
had a
good
couple.
news is it was between like Christmas and New Year, so like
Mhm.
not a lot of business, right? Like it is
Yeah.
that time suck. So it's not like I had, 5,000 emails I had to go back through and like resend.
Yeah.
But there's always those important ones that I had to get back through last night at midnight. So
Right.
because I don't
I
want
know.
people to think I'm like ignoring them and not
Yeah.
replying, it's always hard. So
Yeah.
but anyway, that's all
I
that's
just
really
ignore
going on
them.
there.
So email, what's email? If I ignore it long enough, it'll go away. No. Looks like we have some new folks on today. Nice crowd. Yay. Every week
They
we get
heard
a
I was
bigger.
coming.
They did. I made a big deal out of it, Brian. And it'll be fun. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, first of all, just an announcement. Maggie posted this morning or yesterday about Pelafondo. She had put together a Team Wilpers team, and Pelafondo is coming up on the 18th and the 19th. So what is Pelafondo? Pelafondo, in this case, it's a 2-day event. You pledge, you set a goal to ride a specific amount of mileage, and you can split that up on 1 day or 2 days. You can ride one or both, right? And you can get a medal. That's what Maggie posted about yesterday was if you want your medal, you have to order it. Some people love medals. I make Christmas tree ornaments out of them. So
That's
if
a good
they
idea.
right? All the medals. I like medals. There's something about a medal that I like. I don't care about t-shirts. I don't because they never fit and they're always men's and whatever. I want a
Yeah.
medal. I like my
Yeah, the
medals.
other idea I had was making my medals into coasters,
Oh,
and then
that's
you
a
could have,
cool
like,
idea.
an Iron Man set and be
Yeah.
like all the lifetime races
Grand
set and
Prix.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, all that stuff.
I think there's lots of companies that will make like quilts out of race t-shirts or that kind of thing. And I think there is a company that they take the metals and they bond them and epoxy them and they make them into things.
Exactly.
So there
That's
we go.
Yeah, see?
I
I thought about
just,
that years ago, another business I didn't start. Should have started
I
it.
know. Brian and I have these conversations all the time of, oh, we could have been rich by now if we had gone with that idea that we
I've had
didn't
a
do.
a
But
million $1 ideas. That's what I always say.
yes. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about Pelafondo because I have mixed feelings about an event like this, and I will share. For outdoor riders, it's kind of like you ride, 4 hours a week, and then you decide to go do a ride that is 10 hours long. So it's a big jump in duration for a lot of people. We were talking about on my list of programs that I want to build. I want to build a Pelafondo program for us in the future, and it looks like we're getting some fun guests here. Hi, everyone. Where are you from? From local things. I'm in California, where it was sunny yesterday when I worked all day. Today it's raining when I have some time. I was going to go out and ride. Anyways, so you set your goal. How do you set your goal, first of all? If you were to approach this, Brian, something like Pelafondo, how would you set your daily goal based on what you do today?
It's hard, right? Well, it's really hard, right?
It's
Because you get caught up with what everyone else is doing and
right.
wanna be a big number, right? And try to get there.
Yeah.
Um, so it
It is hard because you see everybody and everybody always wants to increase, just like your FTP test. Everybody's like, oh, I always want my FTP to go up, which
Mhm.
it won't forever. We know that. So, say somebody did 50 miles for their last Pelafondo, and they're like, oh, well, the next big number is 100. I'll do 100, which
Right. Which is,
makes sense.
the
Everybody's like,
mentality. It's honestly, it's the mentality I would have.
right.
But that mentality gets me in trouble so much. And
Yeah.
I think the hard part is when was that last ride? How long have you been riding currently? We always think of this as far as like we're not going to get injured cycling because it's a safe sport, but it's a
Right.
highly repetitive movement, right? Like we're repeating that revelation so many times that knee injuries and stuff like that can pop up pretty
Saddle
easily. And
sores,
yeah, and
especially indoors.
I don't want to
Yeah.
have a big weekend and not be able to ride for 3 weeks afterwards, right? So
Hmm.
I would say, man, if I was really pushing the limit, I would probably look at it more at time than
Yeah.
distance. Like
I
how
agree.
long is 50 miles going to take me? And then I would look at like what's my typical weekly time riding, right? So if I'm
Hmm.
doing 5 hours a week, can I do 5 hours
In a
over the
day
course of a day?
or
You
two.
know, or maybe spread that out over 2 days would probably be okay, right? So if I
Hmm.
said something like that would make sense, if you're doing 10 hours a week and, we do a easy Monday through Friday, and then I'm going to do, 10 hours combined on the weekend. That's a lot. Two
Yeah.
5 hour days is crazy. But yeah, I think that's a tough one. Really,
It is.
really tough one.
I think the biggest challenge, and everyone loves these challenges, right? Everybody loves to do something that's really hard and to be able to, come to the office on Monday and say, I did a thing. That it makes me think of that. There's a comic about a cyclist and a non-cyclist, and they're like, I rode my bike 100 miles in one day.
Right.
Right. Yes, that's what a century ride is. So, yes, we want to set a goal. We want to set a stretch goal. So something that's going to be hard. Like, why do a goal if you know you can do it? But we don't want to set a goal that is so hard that we're going to run the risk of fatigue, not recovering, getting injured, hating our bike. Right.
And
And
not
it's not
training, not
right.
training afterwards. Like that's the whole point of this, right?
Exactly.
Is to be able to train again on Tuesday or
Yes.
Wednesday, whatever it might be. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
would say if anything, spread it over 2 days.
Right.
Start the first day a little easier. If you think you can do
Mhm.
5 hours, just do 3.
Yeah.
And then the next day, try longer. I mean, heck, you and I, we ride on the weekends, and like there are
Yeah.
days I have to do like 2.5 or 3 hours, and then the next day I have to do 2.5 or 3 hours again. Like that's not easy.
Yes.
Like I'm dreading it, honestly.
Especially inside.
Yes. I'm just like
I looked at my training calendar for this weekend. Well, or was it last weekend where I had one day. Oh, we did a metric century
century, yeah. And
in
then next day
Zwift.
was like another
I had a
next day was like
5-hour
another
ride the next day on the calendar, and it was pouring rain, and I was like, "There's no way. I can't do 5 hours on the trainer." And I have 4 hours tomorrow, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the first 2 hours, and I'm gonna try to go outside for the rest if I can." So,
oh, I
yeah,
couldn't I couldn't do 4 hours on the indoor trainer.
I
I mean, I
know.
could if I really had to, but
Yeah,
like 3 hours is like after
yeah.
3 hours, I'm just
It's
like, "What am I
painful.
what am I
I have
doing
to
here?"
change kit, I'll be honest. I lead a Wednesday morning ride, group ride, and it's technically a 4-hour ride, and after about an hour and a half, I pause. We have a coffee break option, which is nice, and I put a different set of bibs on, and I'll switch between manufacturers, so the pressure points are a little different, but just the dry bib, it makes a big difference. I can usually make it another hour or so, but,
Yeah, for
um
sure.
yeah. Amy was saying the mental piece. I thought she said the metal piece is really important. I was like, Amy, I know you do hard things. I don't think you're motivated by metals, but you might be too. But yes, the mental piece is the hardest. And when we look at an event, that first 60% of an event, you're working uphill basically. You look at like a century outdoors, a 100-mile ride, and the first 60 miles, and then there's that piece between like 60 and 80 where you're like, oh god, this is going to go on forever, but then you're starting to see the barn or smell the barn, right? So yeah. What else? So much time on the indoor bike is not fun. Yes, I agree with you, Deb. I'm very impressed with everybody who rides outside, especially in inclement weather. I have a lot of folks I know in New York City, and I'm like, you rode outside. And I'm complaining about 60 here in California.
It's because our
And the
apartments in New York City are like 100 degrees, and
Yeah,
it's worse riding inside.
yeah,
So it's like I'm going out no matter what. Um,
yes.
so,
Maggie says, yes, a short pause, apparel change for hygiene. Yep, right. We don't want all that sweaty stuff, no swamp crotch, folks, and a quick snack. Now, I eat while I'm on the bike. I put my calories in while I'm on the bike. So I don't usually stop for that. But I have these little feed bags that are meant for bike packing, and they're
mhm.
actually hanging on my Peloton handlebar because I'm riding a different bike right now, but it's right next to the Peloton. I'm like, I'm using my Peloton. See, holds all my snacks. So, yeah, 3 hours. I used to think 90 minutes was my threshold, and then I started doing this program that had us doing really long days. And I was like, yeah, I can do a little longer, but,
Yeah, 2 hours
um,
was always 2 hours was always my limit, and then
yeah,
I've extended it to
I
3.
know.
And again, maybe it goes to 4 at some point in time. But the more
Yeah,
you do that, the more it is easier to stay on. Like, you constantly do 90-minute rides. A 45-minute ride does not seem
mhm,
that long
yeah,
anymore because it's your tolerance to it overall gets
yeah.
better. Um, yeah,
And there are
it's
people who do other things. Like, um, one of the coaches I work with watches movies. I was like, "You watch movies? You're not focused?" He's like, "Only in endurance rides." But,
if it's on
I
Earth.
will exactly. I will occasionally, play a game. I have a word game I like, which is not Wordle, and I will occasionally, like, scroll Facebook or whatever, but, yeah, just to keep me going. Anyways, how do we train for an event like this? And I think this is really important. Again, when we talk about progression in our training in general, as I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't ride an hour and then assume I can ride 6 hours. That's a huge jump. So what percentage increment do you think makes sense, Brian?
For cycling,
Yeah,
see, running is so much easier because running has that old 10% rule, right? You don't
yeah,
ever go above 10%, and that's really for structural purpose,
mhm,
tendons, bones, stuff of that nature. Cycling doesn't have that compact or that impact. Um, I would say maybe a 50% increase, I think is aggressive, but probably
that's
safe.
yes,
Like if you're doing an hour, can you go from an hour to 90 minutes? Yeah, I
yeah,
think you can. If you're doing 2 hours, can you go to 3 hours?
mhm.
Yeah,
But I
you
think it
probably
also
can.
depends how you feel when you do that hour ride. If you're doing an hour ride and it's already a stretch, 90 minutes is really gonna feel like a stretch probably.
for
But
sure.
sometimes it's also the mental breakthrough, right? So
Right.
knowing I work with a lot of clients, they're like, "Yeah, I don't know if I can do a 60-minute ride. I've only ever done 30 or 45." And I'm like, "Well, what's the worst that can happen, by the way?
Well,
You
that would be
stop."
the question is like, why is your time frame now? Like,
Right.
why do you only do an hour? Is it because physically you can't go any harder, like any longer? Is it because your butt hurts? Is it because mentally
Mhm.
you just start losing track of what's going on? Like, there's so
Yes.
many issues of what's causing that, and that's the hard part about indoors is we are static. We're not moving around. It's not
Right.
dynamic. I could ride a bike outside for 10 hours.
Mhm.
Indoors, there's no
Yeah.
way. So I think so much of it goes into it, and I
Well, and
guess
that's
it's
also
not
why
what
bike
could
fit
you do,
is
it's what
so
should you.
important
Oh, for
indoors.
sure.
More important indoors, I think, than outdoors. Outdoors, like you said, we're dynamic. We're stopping, we're starting, we're coasting, we're standing, we're moving around, we're stopping for a coffee or whatever we need to do.
Mm.
When we're indoors, we're indoors. We're not stopping. There's no stopping. It's pedaling 100% of the time. So it's
Oh, it's
hard.
like being in an airplane seat for
Ugh,
4
yeah.
hours or 6. No one wants to sit in an airplane seat for 4 hours, like,
No.
kind of flare, or 6 hours. So,
Yeah.
thinking about sitting on your bike seat for that
Right.
time, so I love the Pelofondos. I love the idea of the Pelofondos.
Mhm.
Um, every time I talk to somebody during a bike fit that's done one, I'm always a little in awe of
Yeah.
it because I'm just like, "Man, that is brutal."
Yeah.
And I think what we really have to think about is it's great to do these things. And you and we pick events all season long, right? Like,
We
I
do.
have events that I know, but my training right now is leading to an event in May.
Mhm.
I'm not deciding to do that event in May in April, you
Right.
know?
And
So,
that's what Maggie and I talked about when she said, "Hey, can you're okay if we have a Pelofondo team?" And I'm like, "Of course." But I would prefer we have 3 months to train for an event like this versus a couple weeks while we're
mhm.
still trying to do a training program that makes sense because one of them is going to suffer. So we will make sure.
Or pick a distance that fits your current training program, right? There's going
Yes.
to be another Pelofondo.
Yes.
Right, and
Of
your goal can
course.
be like, "All right, if I'm doing 30 miles now, I can get up to 100 miles by this time next year, but
Mhm.
what does that look like?"
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
it's
really the
okay to
key.
have long-term goals. We should have long-term goals. So, yeah. So, my training would be increasing my weekly long ride every week. I think that and making sure that I'm doing back-to-back rides during the week. So, I think that's a big thing. And so if I'm only doing those 60-minute rides, trying to do 100 miles is gonna be a challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even during
But
the weekday, if you can add 5 or 10 minutes, adds
mhm.
up.
It does. Absolutely. Um, yeah, and bike fit, that's a big thing. I'm riding this Swift frame, and the biggest limitation I found so far for me is I can't get the bar low enough, so I'm getting pressure on the wrong point of the saddle,
The
and
handlebars line up.
the handlebars, yeah, yeah. Because the bike is designed to fit a range of people just like the Peloton, and I'm kinda in the middle of that range, but short torso. I like my bar low for the saddle that I ride
Mhm.
and just can't quite get it there. But the nice thing is it's adjustable. So while I ride, if I start to feel a pressure point, I pull the wrench off the frame because it has a magnetic frame holder and I can adjust the handlebar and push it out a little bit, change pressure point, pull it back in a little bit, change pressure point, go to the drop. So, anyways, I bought some crank adapters, as
Oh,
did I
good.
think you're gonna see, or you have seen one of the girls who I fit on her. She got the crank arm adapters as well. So yeah, you'll get to see
Awesome.
this with frame. So yeah. Anyways, train, get some duration in, get some back to back rides, take breaks when you need to. Yeah. And they're talking about Telefondo. I posted an AMA, ask me anything. I thought it would be really fun. People would ask silly questions or whatever. We got a few questions. So then we're going to do a rapid fire round. This will be fun. I sprung it on Brian this morning. I was like, come up with 5 or 6 questions you can ask me
Oh,
real quick.
I came up with, like, 14, just so you know.
Oh, good. I think I have 8. Anyways, Guy had asked a question. What yeah, that Brian started to answer yesterday. What's the proper way of attaching race numbers to your jersey? I've seen horizontal on both sides. Brian's cover photo on Facebook shows it more vertical. I'm entering some events this year and I don't want to look like a complete noob. So, Brian, how do you know where your race number goes? Your bib number.
The race tells you.
Exactly.
The race tells you exactly where it needs to go. And different races are for different reasons. The photo on my cover is from a road race.
Yeah.
And road races always have a finish line camera to
Mhm.
get placings as far down as they need to for points. So depending on which side of the road the camera is, left side or right side, they'll have you attach a number usually horizontally, or I
Right.
guess vertically, depends on which way you're going. On that side, make sure it's correct way because
Not
definitely put
upside
them
down.
on upside down before.
And not too low and not too high and not too much on your chest because you're in the drops. It needs to be
Exactly.
up on the back. It looks kind of funny. It's not along the side. And the other thing to
Yeah.
keep in mind is, at least here in NorCal, most of our races finish with a platform for the officials. So the camera is actually above.
Raised up.
So they need to be able to see down onto it.
Exactly right.
So
And then
that's one
usually
example.
And there's usually a second number, like in that photo, there would be a second number that's going across my pockets, across kind of my
Yeah.
waistline. And
Yeah.
that is for the motos that, the officials that are on motorcycles through the race. So they can see from behind who is who and what numbers for any
So when you
infractions.
break a rule, they can
hmm
relegate you, which means moving you either to the back of the pack or the back of the results. Yeah.
Yeah. Most races like Grand Fondos or stuff like that. Sometimes you don't have numbers on your jersey necessarily.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a frame on your like a frame number. So you're going to put the
I
number on
hate
your bike.
I
Gravel
hate handlebar
races
numbers.
are handlebar numbers for the most part. Like they go
Right.
right in the front. You buy a $10,000 aerodynamic bike and then you put basically, an eight
And
by 10 piece
apparently
of paper in the
you're
front.
not supposed to curve them around the head too, which a lot of people do. I've always thought they
Correct.
also use them for photos in these recreational events so they can ID you quickly. So when
hmm
go to look at your race photos or your event photos, you can just put in your race number and it will tell you, all your photos will pop up. But they oftentimes have a timing chip in some of these events too, as far
Right.
as like Grand Fondos will have time segments. And so you'll get a time for each segment or a time for your finish or whatever. And I should say about race numbers for USA Cycling sanctioned races as well, they have a lot of rules about what you can do to your number. Like you're not supposed to crinkle them up, which is what everybody does as soon as they get them. Um, or you're not supposed to fold them down or cut them or make them smaller. And some of these numbers are huge. And you look at
Gigantic.
some of the junior racers or the small women, and it's like it takes up their whole jersey or blocks their pockets so they can't get food out or whatever. Yeah, I'm trying to think where else we have. Oh, numbers that go on the back of the seat post. That was the one. Nationals does that, and you have to find a mount
Yeah.
for it.
Framed. So you have to have a little frame mount or
Yeah,
little number mount holder.
I got
Um,
one from my Varia, my Garmin Varia radar. There's a guy on Etsy who makes them that go into that.
Oh, that locking. Oh, that's awesome. That's
It was
smart.
very nice. Yeah, but it
Send
was
that
funny
to me.
because at
That's smart.
Gravel, I have some extras. You could have one.
Awesome.
I'll send one to you. Yeah, I bought a few because, like, the week before Gravel Nationals, they sent out an email saying you have to have a frame number holder. They
Yeah.
didn't say that they would also have zip ties because you can do it with zip ties. But anyways,
But they're
anyways,
flat
yeah,
and
there's
stuff.
your answer is your event or race promoter will tell you where the numbers belong. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, always take extra pins. And the one thing that I will say is rarely will you see a cycling number on the front
In the front.
because you can't see the front of a body versus in running, you do see it there. Never pin through the holes. That's not what they're there for.
Oh, if
I
it's a
hate the whole
paper number, yeah, paper
I
number,
know.
don't pin
So
through the
you're gonna
holes.
pin I wish I had an example, I don't have it here. Because with my race development program, we used to teach them how to pin their numbers. The best way to do it is on a steering wheel or on your buddy, but you might poke your buddy if you're
Pillow.
pinning someone else.
I always did
Oh,
a pillow, like a couch pillow, and I
yeah.
zip, get my
I don't have
jersey
couch
around it,
pillows in my car when I'm at a race
zip
start,
it,
though.
zip it up. Oh, I always do it the night
Yeah.
before. You got to get it
Oh, if you
exactly
have your
right.
number
You
the
got to
night
try it
before.
on.
You don't
All
always
that
get it
stuff.
the night before. You might get it that day,
But
but
I started using magnets instead of the pins.
I know it. Bib boards and all those, yeah.
Yeah,
Or we used to
because
use 3M spray glue
the
and
spray. But
yeah,
the pins, the problem is, especially if it's an expensive jersey, you start to rip your jersey over
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So for me, like the magnets, a little bit, they can be a little headachy sometimes to get
yeah,
on there, but they don't do any damage to my $200 jersey. You know
right.
what I mean? I'm like,
I know the day of the $30 jersey is long gone. So what I was going to say is we have a 9-pin method. Yes, it's a little weight, but that way you don't have any wind
Hair
flapping in and
flapping.
out, and the pin lays flat. So the pin lays flat on here, not through the holes, not upside down, not backwards. Pay attention. You can always tell new racers by how they pin their number.
Oh, for sure.
And some
Yeah.
old racers who don't care. But
Yeah. And
Debbie has a
if you're at the
question.
starting line and someone looks like they need help pinning their number, just look
Hold
away.
on. Oh, I always
Look
help.
away. Oh, no way. I'm always
I've
like, oh
met
no.
so many people in my
I know.
world
Even
by
my
helping
teammates.
them
I'm like,
pin their
no,
numbers. See, that's the difference between me and Brian.
I'm not gonna help you move either. I'll help you pay for a mover, but I'm not
Yeah,
gonna help you move.
I know. Pizza and beer don't do it
Yeah.
as adults. Um, Debbie is thinking of signing up for her first real race, not just a ride. Yay. Any tips for beginners? This might be a longer conversation. Um, let's see how long we go, Debbie. And I'm going to put you on my list of something that we can talk about because that's a really
It's a great
interesting
question.
topic to me, especially these days. You know, we think of sanctioned racing by USA Cycling, which is what you see on like the Tour de France, right? But now there are what I would call hybrid competitive events like gravel races and grand fondos where you have a competitive component, but you also have people doing it for fun. So let's, I was going to screenshot her question, but I'm going to write it down. So preparing for your first race. That'll be a whole
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, I do.
Um,
But quickly, two things that I think of right off the bat is number one, getting into group rides.
yeah.
Getting into like fast group rides.
And
And
Debbie
fast
does
is
this.
relative to you, right? So
Yeah.
it's fast relative to your capabilities, group A, group B, group C, whatever it might be. But find those kind of faster group rides. It's going to get you comfortable in a pack, following a wheel. What's it feel like to be in the wind and hot, like, and get dropped and fight
Hmm.
back and stuff of that nature. So I think group rides are definitely the best thing there. And then from a training perspective, have an idea, if you can, if not, ask somebody who may have done that race. What's the race like? Are they
Right.
hard 5 minute efforts? Are there long 20-minute efforts? Are they short sprint efforts? Like, and then make sure, 4 or 5 weeks leading up to that event that you're doing one of those type of workouts every week,
So specificity of training.
specificity.
Yeah. And that's
Exactly.
what I will tag onto that comment and say, do your research. You would not go to a
Hmm.
job interview without reviewing everything about the company and the interviewer and, the position. Do your research. There's a plethora of information available now online about pretty much any event, unless it's a brand new event. And even then, you might be able to find some things. There are bloggers who post race reports. There are Strava records. You can look at past race results, so you have an idea of how long it might take
How
you and
long?
how long the competitive racers are doing it in, and learn everything you can about the course, the conditions, what tires people run, all that stuff. So there's lots of information, but we'll bring this back up. I find that a very interesting question. So Oliver had a question. General tips on taking your training outside. How do you apply your training to the outside and how to get started when it comes to signing up for your first event? And maybe we'll move the second part of that question into the same as Deborah's. How do you take your training outside? Let's talk about that. And how do we apply what we've been doing all winter when we start going out in the spring?
Um, thing I try to get across to my athletes when they're doing this is I didn't pick a 3 minute interval because it has to be a 3 minute interval. I
Right.
picked a 3 minute interval because we're trying to accomplish something in general. Now, that could have been a 2 minute interval, a 4 minute interval, right? So, if you look at a lot of these workouts, you might see like a VO2 max workout, right? You're doing 10
Hmm.
by 1 minute intervals. Well, what we're really there doing is like 10 minutes in that power zone.
Right.
So that could also be the same thing as 5 2 minute intervals. It's still 10 minute total time in that power zone. Now, could I do a 1 10 minute interval? No, because I can never hold that power
Yeah.
for that 10 minutes. So
Mentally, you would
exactly.
burst.
Yeah, and physically you can't, right? Your numbers
Yeah.
would definitely be off. If you could do your
Yeah.
1 minute power for 10 minutes, like you got to retest. Um, so what I try to get across to them is what's the purpose of this workout? What are we trying
Hmm.
to accomplish, right? Which energy system are we working? So look at it with like gloves. Again, it's not a fenced in yard. This interval
Right.
needs to happen here. It's a field, it's a meadow. If you're a little long, a little short because of a stop sign or a hill,
A downhill or an
no
uphill or yeah,
no big deal. It's
yeah.
really not a big deal. Get the essence of what the workout is. You've been doing enough of these that you're like, oh, this should be a PZ max type ride or
Mhm.
a PZ ride or an endurance ride. Just make sure you're sticking to that theme while you're
Yeah.
out there.
I use the word intention a lot. And I will also say, and I've used this in this group, but also another group that I coach with, which is messy graphs are okay.
Oh
Everybody
yeah.
wants this perfect graph, right? That's erg mode. We were talking about that with auto resistance in one of the groups, why bike plus auto resistance may not be the best way to train. And it's okay. My feedback for you, Oliver, would be pick a route that you can execute the type of workout you want to do outside. And the flatter it is, the better. But if you ride hilly terrain all the time, we want to ride the hills too. So in my case, I found a 7-mile loop. It's all right turns, so I don't have a lot of disruptions. There is one red light and one stop sign on it. It's got little bits of elevation gain and loss, so I can kind of sustain. But the cool thing about that is I've learned how to create power on my downhills, right?
Mhm.
It's easy to create power on your uphills, but on the downhills, a lot of people leave money on the table. And my graphs aren't perfect. Sometimes I have to miss part of an interval and I'll make it up, or I'll pause my bike computer for a moment, even though I'm still moving, so I can get to a better spot to start my interval. If I'm doing something really short and I know, oh my God, I've got a corner coming up and I can't hold that power through that corner or whatever. So um, find a route where you can do certain types of workouts. I have a slight grade uphill where I can do workouts that requires an elevation change. And it's pretty constant, which is great. Not a lot around here is super constant that isn't steep. So that's good. And like Brian said, it's the intention of the workout. So think about what you want to do and running fartleks. Yes. So fartleks, one of my favorite words in the world. This is Guy, who is Brandon in a different world. Um, Anyways, what is a fartlek? Fartlek is, I think it's a German term, but it's interval play, basically. And it might mean instead of doing timed intervals, I might say, I'm going to go hard till that tree or till that firehouse, or I'm going to go easy now. So that kind of thing. So I'm going to, and we have kind of formalized them. You will see formal workouts now that say fartlek. But the original intention was, oh, I'm just going to run hard till I get to the mailbox and then I'm going to recover. And that's good training too. We get caught up a lot in numbers. Sometimes you don't have that number. You can't see your computer because your eyes are blurry,
Yeah, I mean,
or
again,
something
look at
fails.
different sports, right? Like swimmers typically do intervals on distance, hundreds, 200s, 300s,
Yeah.
400s. Same thing as runners because they're doing their training on a track. Track cyclists as well. Cyclists, we use time because it's such a fixed point, and we don't know what
Yeah.
the wind resistance is. We don't know what the grade is. So, if I'm working with a track athlete and we're doing 400-meter repeats, well, I know that that is about a 50-second for most of my athletes. We'll say 50 seconds to like 75-second interval, right? Well, as a cyclist, I can just say do a minute,
Hmm.
right? If you do a minute on the track, you might be ending 50 yards away from where you started. You got to
Right.
walk there and stuff like that, right? So that's the idea. Is like there again, it comes down to is what energy system are we trying to accomplish? What's the
Hmm.
purpose of the idea, the intention, like you said, Lori, of that day, and
Yeah.
then just try to match that based on it, right? In Vermont, it's really hard. Everything's short and steep, so
Yeah.
for me, I might finish a hard effort and then I'm still on this freaking hill.
Hmm.
Yeah, like, all right, well, not a good choice for that
Gotta do
workout
something.
and or
Yeah.
that train, but I still
Yeah.
got to get up there. Yeah.
It's interesting. Years ago, I was at a USA Cycling Coaches Summit, and Alan Lim was there long before Scratch Labs. So, for those of you who know Alan Lim and the Secret Drink Mix and Scratch Labs and the Portables cookbook and all of that, and he was coaching, and he was describing the coaching that he prescribes as easy, moderate, and hard. So
Mhm.
even though, and I first met him working with Saris Cyclops, so one of the very first power meters that was available on the open market, and he was instrumental in developing that as well. And here he is, the man with all the data, all the science, saying, "Today you're going to go easy." That was it. now you're gonna do these hard intervals." I was like, "Okay." And so at the end of the day, think about that, right? How hard is this? We could use it on a scale, right? We've got 7 power zones. We can use our numbers without actually looking at watts. We could there's the old Borg scale, which I always find kind of funny,
It's
right?
crazy. Like
It's a
7 to
rating.
20. Like, come on.
Yeah. It
Where's 1
basically
through 6?
correlates to your heart rate
Yeah.
if you were a 25-year-old man, basically, right? So, how do you evaluate this on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 6 or 1 to 5 or whatever? So, knowing what hard feels like and knowing what and I think that's the secret sauce in training is take those numbers, but then understand how it correlates to how you feel, your rating of perceived exertion, which we know will be different. I've been on a plan where I'm doing a specific workout and I have to do it in the morning and at night, which is very interesting. Right. 7 in the morning means I wake up at 6, I have a shot of espresso and a banana, and I get on the bike basically. And then at the end of the day, when we might be more warmed up, but more fatigued as well. And it's so interesting to see the difference in how things feel in the morning
Mhm.
versus the evening. So, but perceived exertion is a very important tool. Know how hard is hard because at the end of the day, especially if you're in a group and you're racing or doing a group ride, you're not going to look at your computer and be like, oh, I'm riding above threshold. I'm going to slow down now. No, you're not.
Certain
Just
races, I shut
go.
my computer. Certain races, I shut my computer screen down.
Yeah.
I will not have my heart rate on it. I will
Yeah.
not have my power number on it, because
I
I
changed my fields for nationals. I was like, I don't wanna
yeah,
see anything else except what I need to see, which is like distance and duration
yeah,
and grades and all I was like, I don't wanna see the rest of it because in group situations, whether I'm racing or doing a group ride, the pace is often dictated. My
by them.
output is dictated by everybody else I'm with.
Yeah,
So
I'm either in the race or I'm behind the race, right? So it's like if they're going, I gotta go, whether I can hold
yeah,
on or not. Doesn't matter if the point is to win the race. If it's just the
right.
finish, then yes, I'm gonna
I might pace.
meter my
The time
efforts a
trials are
lot
different in
better.
that respect, right?
For
So I
sure.
may pace as an individual. I'm going to move on. Mike had a question, a very long question. For outdoor bikes, it seems like I could take my bike to the bike shop for a tune up. I'm a Peloton rider. Is there general maintenance um, that I should be doing on a recurring basis? Can I do it at home since the bike's not easily transportable? I've had my bike for about 15 months. I wipe it down and disinfect it every couple of weeks. Oh, he wipes it down after every ride. Good. And I check to ensure that the bolts are tight, but other than that, I haven't done anything else. And I always think of bike maintenance as it's kind of like cleaning the shower or the toilet. If you do it once a year, it's a disgusting job. If you, right? Think about like your shower floor. Um, if I take care of my bike every day, it's not so bad, right? So for outdoor bikes, what are we doing? Obviously, we're wiping them down, we're lubing our chain, we're pumping our tires, we're doing all the things. We're listening because usually an unusual sound in a bike is going to indicate some maintenance issue. I'm feeling how do my brakes feel from day to day. What do I do for my indoor bikes? What do you recommend, Brian? What is the
Well, for the Peloton
maintenance for
bike,
an indoor bike?
same, like wipe it down.
Yeah.
I would probably twice a year take out the knobs, like unscrew it pretty far
Yes.
and wipe that down because it's going to start to corrode inside there. We
How
see
many
that
bike
with
fit
our bike
clients have
fit
you had who
clients.
can't move their
Can
knobs?
move something, and same thing, like loosen it up, move the seat post all the way up, wipe off the dust and stuff that's in there. Same thing with the handlebars.
Mhm.
So I would do that maybe like twice a year, kind of get into there. I don't think you have to do that on a regular basis.
Right.
Um, and then, yeah, just wiping out day to day. Peloton bikes are pretty bomb proof. Like they are very well made, I think. And there's not a chance of belt driven. So there's no
Mhm.
chain lube or anything like that. They don't really
Yeah,
stretch. So those things will run pretty well for a pretty long time. Obviously, there's the pedal issue,
right, and
which
that was
they
his next
recommend that you
question. He's like,
change. They
"We're
change
talking
them
about changing
out.
the pedals." Yeah,
Yeah.
why do we change the
Um,
pedals on the Peloton and not so much the outdoor bike? I mean, there's a couple things. First, the pedals that you got are pretty cheap.
yeah,
It's
I was
not
gonna
a
say
high
that
quality pedal.
there's one issue between the two is that those
Yeah,
pedals are really crappy and they have a tendency to break.
right. So you could just go buy a different pedal or use a pedal system that you use for an outdoor bike if you're an outdoor rider.
Yes. I
Um,
typically recommend when I'm doing a fit, if people ask me about pedals, I typically recommend go ahead and change them out if it's the Peloton pedals, it's been more than I think they say 12 months.
Yeah.
I would say, like, go ahead, change them out, but don't change them with Peloton pedals. Change them with a different company.
Yeah.
And whatever company you buy, whatever pedals you buy, whether it's directly from Look or something, they're going to come with the cleats. So if it's a solo person, great, awesome. The cleats come with the pedals. You just switch it
Mhm.
out. If it's a household, four of you are all using the same bike and different shoes, then I would stick with, again, Look, the company that originally created this cleat does make a pedal called the Duo, which has SPD on one side and it has a Delta cleat on the other side.
Mhm.
So the same cleat that the current Peloton pedals use, I would switch to that. It's cheaper and it's not going to break in 12
Yeah.
months.
Yeah. And there are lots of, because it's out of patent now, there are lots of, like, Look doesn't actually make the Delta anymore. I was gonna buy them.
Correct.
They make just the Keo. But there are lots of other companies that do that. I think the quality, based on what I've seen, is much better than, it's like an aluminum, spindle. I think that's why they break. The other issue with an indoor bike, why it takes stress, is you got a heavy flywheel. We tend to ride hard resistance. We're sweating all over the dang thing. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So replace your pedals. It's not a bad idea. People are always like, "Oh, you don't need to replace pedals." Well, guess what? When one of them breaks off and you end up with an injury in your leg because the pedal body hit you or whatever, yeah, you'll probably.
That's what I always say with the pedals and the seat post. Like people are like, I didn't do the recall, or I did the recall and it's sitting in my
Mhm.
garage. I'm like, the problem with this is, yeah, it might not break,
Right, but
but
it
it doesn't
might.
give you a warning. It doesn't give
Yeah,
you a warning before it breaks. Like that
yeah.
pedal breaks, it breaks. And
Mhm.
if you're doing 100 cadence, that's not going to be a good situation.
No.
Same thing with the saddle. So I'm always like, just change those things out. Don't mess
Mhm.
with it. They put that there for a reason. Now
Right.
they shouldn't break in 12, but they do.
Mhm.
So just get rid of them, get new pedals,
Yeah.
roll with it.
Maggie's asking about changing cleats, and just one term of clarification. In some sports, we call the entire shoe and all the little things that are sticking out of it cleats, like football or soccer or running. The whole shoe, everything is called a cleat. In cycling, we have shoes and we have cleats. It's because we have different pedal systems. And honestly, if you're riding inside only and not walking around on your cleats, I'm guessing you probably never have to replace them. I've been riding the same
5
ones for
years.
many
5
years and they
5
have
plus
0
years.
wear,
Yeah.
right? The only wear they get is clipping in and clipping out. And even that's not significant. So I would say for most of us, we probably don't need to replace the actual cleat. The only wear item I would think, the footbed inside the shoe gets sweaty and pushed down, and replace the footbeds. Get a good quality cycling specific footbed like Gate or Specialized, or Trek makes one now. So there's some good ones out there that match your arch height. That's a good recommendation there.
Yeah, plus
Um,
it gets stinky.
they do get stinky. Anyways, Mike has one more question. Bonus question for me. How in the heck am I keeping up with all the Facebook Messenger groups for this challenge? He's only in one and he can't keep up. And that's a little challenge there because I have a little OCD and I have to go back and read all the unread messages. But what I will say is we have these amazing group leads in each group, and they're answering most of your questions and they're posting all the information. And all I have to do is go in and glance and say hi and cheer you on, and once in a while I answer a question. But group leads are great. And group leads are also in direct communication with Domestiq right now. So for any questions or bugs or feature requests, feel free to either post that on the Domestiq site or reach out through your group lead, and they'll make sure they get that information. So yeah, it's been great. I am so stoked on this challenge. We'll talk a little bit more, but I want to move into rapid fire because I wrote some questions for Brian. Yeah. And
Go
then
for it.
we'll
You want
see
to go
what he.
first? Yeah, go
Yeah,
for it.
so these
You
are
asked me to.
mostly one-word questions. So, first question, morning or evening workout?
Morning.
What's your favorite type of workout?
VO2 max.
If you could ride your bike anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Outside.
Who is your living athletic idol? Or I should say current sport athletic
Lachlan Morton.
idol. Ooh, who is Lachlan Morton? I'll give you more than
Lachlan
one
Morton
word.
rides for EF Education. He was a world tour rider that kind of left the world tour and now just does like crazy adventures. Like the
Oh, yeah.
one most, well, I guess it was a year or two ago, he rode the Tour de France while the Tour de France was going on, but he did it self supported, right? And he rode every mile, even the transfers.
Yeah.
So like where they would take a plane from one section to the next, he rode that section
Nice.
to the point where he ended up like wearing Crocs because his feet were so beat up. He ended up wearing Crocs and attached a cleat to the Croc somehow, and then like put carbon insoles in the Crocs. Like this guy's amazing. Did like Tour de
Yeah.
Bike. He's just an adventurous, and I love that. Like
He would jump in and do Pelofondo.
he would do anything.
Yeah.
He's
Uh,
love it.
Historical athletic idol.
Greg LeMond. I'm sticking with the
Ah,
cycling theme here.
yeah.
I think for everything that all the good that we gave Lance Armstrong as far as him overcoming cancer and that battle back, Greg LeMond did the same thing. He was shot with a
Yes.
shotgun and basically still has a pellet right near his heart.
Yeah.
And
Hunting,
came back
right? It
and
was a hunting
won
shot.
hunting, yeah, and came back and won the Tour de France as well. So their stories are very, very similar. The Comeback is a great book if you read it
Mhm.
about Greg LeMond. Great for audio book, great for Pelfondo weekend, something to listen to.
There you go.
Um, so yeah, I'd say Greg LeMond. Also, a
Awesome.
person I would love to ride with.
Okay, got 3 more. If you were to change careers, what would you do? These are good questions. Man, I
That's a
was
very good
inspired this
question.
morning.
Um, what would I do? I think I'd be an engineer of some sort.
Ah, break things and fix things.
Yeah, I like problem solving.
Yeah. Okay. What are your athletic goals for this year?
To feel good racing again. Last 2 years, I haven't felt like myself racing. I think I've been, I don't know, chasing something, or maybe it's a sophomore slump or something like that. But yeah, I just want to feel good racing again.
Menopause?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. What are your personal goals for this year?
Not to take things personally.
Ooh,
Things happen. Let's just deal with the information at hand. But I have a tendency, like even last night with the email thing, right? Like emails aren't going out. I take that personally, not in the fact that I think the email's trying to screw me. But what does it say about me? Like, oh,
yeah.
someone's going to think like I'm not capable or stuff like that. So to not take things personally is my number one goal for this year.
Cool. Okay. Your turn.
All right. Mine aren't as
I want to answer my
insightful as
own
yours.
questions too, though.
Yeah, I know. Mine are not as insightful, but they're all cycling fun. Okay,
That's good.
tubes or tubeless
Tubeless.
for sure. Attack the group ride or sit in?
Oh, God. Attack.
Yeah, no.
Foolishly attack.
Of course, that's the
Yeah,
only way.
it's a wrong moment down a hill or whatever. Yeah. I'm
Every
dumb
like
when I
that's what
race.
makes it fun. All
I
right, now
know.
this is a very debatable one. Socks over or under your leg warmers?
Under. Absolutely under.
I agree. So for all those out there, like leg warmers, just like leggings that you put on underneath your bibs when you're riding outside. There's a big argument if socks should go over top of them or
Mhm.
under them. I'm under, 100% under because
Under.
leg
The
warmers.
zipper hits your
Well,
ankle.
for me, the idea is leg warmers might come off. That's why I'm wearing leg
Yeah.
warmers and not tights because I
Right.
might want to take them off, which means it has to be above my sock.
Yeah. But
But
then you
anyway,
can't see the cute socks, but yeah, under.
exactly. That's why everyone complains. Sports nutrition, gels, bars, or candy.
Gels and bars.
Oh no, I candy all the
I
way.
know. I know. I just can't do the candy thing.
Shorts or bibs?
Bibs,
Headwind or climb?
climb.
Me too. Latte or cappuccino?
Ooh, Americano, espresso, macchiato. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't do a lot of milk, so I'll do a cappuccino if I have a croissant.
me too. Same way.
Never a latte. It's like
Um,
a big glass of milk.
Gravel or pavement?
Gravel.
SPD or look style cleats?
SPD.
Garmin, Wahoo, or Hammerhead?
Ah, Wahoo. But I'm kind of, yeah, I've gone back and forth.
I'm always a Garmin because I've always used Garmin.
I was
Uh,
always
el- Shifting, electric or mechanical?
electric.
For sure. Um, erg mode or resistance mode?
Resistance mode, like incline. Yeah. I like making my own power. Yeah.
Yeah, I ride too hard at incline, so erg keeps me where I should be. I like both. But
It keeps my brain engaged. And I think there's, we could have, again, a whole conversation about engaging the brain while we ride and why that's important, why we shouldn't be zoning out. So,
oh,
yeah.
I think and this would be a great conversation. I actually think that there's I think there's a neurological difference of riding on both. The way I've
Hmm.
always said this is erg mode is like climbing.
Right.
It's always very easy to produce power because I'm pushing against the machine. It's like
Hmm.
it's me fighting. It's like the bear is attacking me and I'm fighting the
Yeah.
bear off. Where incline or resistance mode, you have to turn it up. Like you
You're
have to
running away from
produce
the
it. You're attacking the bear. No, in that one, like
Oh,
you're still fighting, but you're the aggressor in
yeah.
there. And I think it definitely has an impact on how you ride and race outside too. I would love to see research, but it'd be really hard to see like neurologically how does the body
Hmm.
actually deal with those two different
Yeah.
forces, being pushed or pushing is how
And
I
the
kind of
other
always look at it.
difference, of course, is am I on a heavy fixed gear flywheel or am I on a freewheel?
Right.
And my disadvantage last winter, I rode the Peloton. I did 2,500 miles on my Peloton last winter.
Wow.
It
It's a
was
lot.
crazy when I looked at my review and my year in review. And I got outside and I had forgotten how to make power being on the flywheel because it will continue to pedal you for a while,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Track bike.
which was my rationale for getting a trainer again for this
Yeah.
winter.
There's positive and negatives to both, right? It's like a track bike, same kind of thing, like fixed geared bike.
Yeah,
Positives and negatives. Got to do both.
yeah.
Let's see. Well, you actually you, you already answered this one earlier, but ride first or coffee first?
Oh, coffee,
Yeah, it's probably shot
and
of
then
espresso and
coffee,
banana.
and
You
then
said.
coffee, and then coffee. I mean,
Yeah.
I have coffee within my rides outside
All
sometimes.
right. Here's my last one.
Okay.
This is like asking a parent to decide which is their favorite child. So I get that this is a tough one. But if you could only keep one of the bikes that you currently own,
Hmm.
which one would it be?
That's a hard one because I have two that I love a
You
lot.
can only pick one.
I know. Um, I would say it would be my gravel bike because it'll do
Why?
everything. It'll do everything.
That's what
And
I.
it can
That's what
even
I
be
kind
a
of said on.
pretty efficient road bike if I throw road tires on versus
Yeah,
gravel tires. Yeah.
yeah. I kind of felt I was thinking that one myself too. I was like, which one would I really do? Like, it's a real toss up between my mountain bike and my
Mhm.
gravel bike.
Yeah.
Because my gravel bike can be used as a road bike. Like I could switch the tires out and it'd be sufficient for that.
Mhm.
I could mountain bike a little bit with my gravel bike, but not to the way and extent I would love to.
Right.
The problem is I love mountain biking the most. That's where I
Yeah.
get the most enjoyment of cycling, but
Yeah.
it's not what I race as much and stuff like that. So it's hard. I'd probably choose the gravel. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah. So, well, that was good.
That was fun.
Yay! I like rapid fire. We'll have to do this again. Well, maybe we'll pick a topic or we'll let people
And
send
I
us
do
more
have a favorite
questions.
child too, by the way. That's fine.
Do you? Yeah, I won't tell
It
her.
changes every other week, but yeah, you always have a favorite.
Yeah. Let's just quick review of week 2 coming up. As of yesterday, we do have printable schedules as I posted in the group, which is great. And we do get a lot of questions about when is the new week dropping? Why can't we see all the weeks? So we're going to drop 1 week at a time. And that will be on Thursday morning. So you'll have some time to review everything and take a look. And if you need to write ahead a little bit because you've got a conflict coming up or whatever, you'll have the availability of doing that. You can catch up again when you get back. So, um, Deborah, thank you for coming live. It was great. We're happy that this was your first meeting with us. This week, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to start doing a little bit of intensity. This week was all endurance except your FTP test, which, by the way, everybody who used the pacing calculator was awesome. So I encourage all of you to take a look at that for next time. Have a plan as you go into this test. I saw some beautiful graphs, saw some erratic graphs, right? When we look at, we'll talk again before the next FTP test about pacing and how we should approach that. But we want that nice gradual increase, and that was awesome. Monday will be a rest day. Tuesday, our first day of intensity of the challenge. So we're going to ride with Olivia. Of course, we'll do Olivia's intensity, right? Power Zone with Olivia, 30-minute ride. Wednesday, 45-minute PZE with Dennis. Thursday, we're with Tunde again. Got some really good feedback on her FTP test. I will say, next time you do it, don't stand. I didn't realize she had standing in there. I apologize. I did not review the whole class. I was shocked by that. So don't stand. That's going to have a little bit of a negative impact on your effect. But Thursday we'll do Power Zone with Tunde. Friday is a rest day. Saturday, Matt Wilpers, 60-minute Power Zone endurance. Obviously, you can do the live ride if you want that day. You can also sub a shorter PZE ride. So we have those options. And Sunday, we've got 30 minutes with Christine. For those of you who've been clicking around Domestiq, you know that everything's going to automatically update. You can also go in and self-certify. And when you do that, it's going to pull up your recent history and ask you which class to substitute. And it's pretty cool technology. So yeah, it's all there, and a printable PDF that you can put on your refrigerator and check it off as you go. So join your Facebook chat. There's really good stuff going on in there. It's social. People are asking questions. People are organizing rides together. So do that. Hashtag Team Wilpers. And I think that's it for today. Anything else to add? Closing thoughts, Brian?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
All good. Just crush it out there.
I know. It was good to see you today. Thank you for coming
It's
back
always
and joining
fun.
us.
I
We
like
got a
this.
couple, I have an athlete guest coming up, and I also have Chris Lewis from Fondo is going to join us in a couple weeks. So that'll be really fun. Chris is also part of the Domestiq team, and you'll probably all know him from Fondo. So yeah, and keep asking your questions. Got special requests. I'm happy to pull up topics, and I do have a whole list of topics from y'all that you answered recently. So we'll look at that. But have a great week. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Woohoo!